Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Central Europe. I hope everybody has had a great week and you're feeling happy and energized going into the weekend. This is a members chat class. We are focusing on IELTS Task 1, writing. It's a diagram type question. Hi, Valiant Venture. Hi, Alexander. Welcome, members, to the class. Again, the materials, strategies, techniques come from our websites, aehelp.com for the academic version of the exam. That website looks like this with the blue background. Click that red button to join us there. And for the general version of the exam, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's general IELTShelp.com. And of course, the reading and writing sections are different. Their writing task 1 for general is letter writing, so pay attention to that. Hi, Shang Hung. Good to see you in there. All right. So the general version of our website looks like this with the green background. And again, just click that big red button to join our full courses there. You can also download our app. It's linked with our website, so you can access your full premium account from either your app or the website on the go or at home on your PC. Look for Academic IELTS Help on your Play Store or Apple Store. You'll find it there. Hi, Zainab. Just about ready to start here. A few more members joining in on time. All right. So if you have questions, comments, concerns about our products or the exam, just send us an email. Our priority is good communication. Send me an email to Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com. Hi, Roshni. All right. Fantastic. To become a member of our YouTube channel, to join these members chat classes, just click the join button beside the subscribe button. If you don't see it there, send me an email. Okay, so today, task 1. Diagram example. Of course, it's a brand new, fresh example. And then in just under 90 minutes, we will do a task 2 together. We'll start with the planning, the introduction, and that will be for everyone. Hi, Kesey. All right, students, here we go. IELTS Task 1 writing. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The following diagram shows how electricity is created using water. Describe the main steps in the process and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. Again, just a reminder, students, members, if you want to get a high band score, band 7, 8, or 9, you have to write at least minimum 150, not less than 150. You will lose marks if you write less than 150, and not just 150, because if you write just 150, you have some grammar mistakes and missing information. It's very hard to get a good score. So, hi, Amarjeet. All right. So let's take a look at this picture. Here we go. Try to get it all into one eye shot. All right. So there we have our picture. Hopefully it's clear for everyone. Now, this diagram, interestingly, I haven't seen it on an exam so far, and I haven't done this example yet. This is new for us. I was searching for ideas on what could easily be a diagram that you might need to write a task 1 on at any moment in time in the near future. And I thought to myself, well, definitely a classic diagram that could very easily be on an upcoming IELTS exam is this diagram here. Does everybody know what this is called? This large structure here, made of concrete, of course. So what is this? I think some of you should have that in your vocabulary. Yeah, thank you, Roshni. It's a dam. Can anybody give me the full name of this structure? So even though we don't have it here, on your IELTS exam, you'll probably have the full. Shang Hung says reservoir. This is the reservoir here, Shang Hung, so that's a good word. Okay. There we go. Alexander says this is a hydro power plant. Yeah, so this whole structure here is a hydro power plant. Yeah, very good, Alexander. It's a hydro power plant. Hydro, of course, is another word for water, coming from Latin, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a dam, this is a reservoir, and this whole picture here is called a hydro power plant, and this is a hydropower dam also, as it is called. So good for you. All right, great. So we're all on the same page, and I think it's maybe a little bit faint, but hopefully you can kind of see these arrows here. And then there are also some arrows that are kind of like this here as well. So just so you can see that. And of course these lightning bolts, these little pictures, these are called lightning bolts. Lightning bolts are used to depict electricity. So if you see those on a box on the street, then be careful. Okay? All right, so this is our mission for task 1, to clearly explain what's happening in this diagram. Of course, we need the overview, we need the analysis, the body, and maybe a summary. I'm going to have you members do most of the work in this class today. I'm going to simply just guide you and make corrections. How does that sound? So the task of overview, analysis, and summary will be in your hands, okay? It's not an overly complex diagram, but of course, the better your English, the better your connections and vocabulary, the better your score, okay? So let's kick it off with the overview. And I'll go back to the question so you can see that. Okay. And just give me the first sentence. Thank you, Kesey, for reflecting on what I said. Just give me the first sentence, students. Here, I'll go back now to the question. And you can give me the first sentence, and I'll take the best one that you give me, or maybe a combination of the best ones that you give me. So here is the question again. The following diagram shows how electricity is created using water. Describe the main steps in the process and make comparisons where relevant. So give me the first sentence, members. I want to evaluate what you recall from previous classes when we looked at diagrams and maps. And of course, you don't need to write this. This is just for the viewers in your notes. The first paragraph is the overview. And the overview, for those of you who might be confused, it's the same as the introduction. Okay, this is no different. I see some students these days writing an overview and an introduction, and that's just unnecessary and quite awkward, to be frank. So just the overview. Here, the overview should be about 3 to 4 sentences maximum. I won't give you any more hints than that. because I want you to recall and use what you learned in previous classes. All right. So Shanghung Tsai says the hydropower plant diagram shows how to generate electricity by, I don't know if it's the dam, kind of, Shanghung. Okay. Kisi says the given diagram depicts the electricity creation process by a hydro power plant. Okay. Let's see some more. Alexander says the way of electricity production via water is depicted in the diagram. What's another way to say diagram, students? Let's try to paraphrase as much as possible. So again, remember, you want to not only give some details like naming hydropower, but you want to paraphrase, use other words. Scheme is not bad, Valiant Venture. Alexander, flowchart is awkward in this case. Shanghung Tsai says blueprint, and blueprint is very good. Roshni is using blueprint in the first sentence. So Roshni says the blueprint illustrates the generating electricity by using water, which plays a vital role. Okay, so Roshni, you have some really good points there. If I take yours and I combine it with Shanghung Tsai's, that's where I end up with my band 9 answer. I'll read Amarjeet as well here. Amarjeet says the given diagram illustrates the information about how to generate electricity by water at a hydro power plant. Amarjeet, you're almost there. So you almost have Roshni and Shanghung combined, which is pretty good. So the given blueprint depicts the process by which electricity is generated in a hydropower plant. Okay, so that's kind of the combination of paraphrasing and a little bit of detail. So the given blueprint depicts the process by which electricity is generated in a hydropower plant. Okay, you don't need to say with water because hydropower plant, that's clear that that's using water. Okay. All right, sure. So we're not done yet. Hopefully you realize this. We need at least one more sentence. So let's take another peek at this diagram / blueprint. What do we notice? So what is the most clear or most observable part of this diagram? We should include that into our overview. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll reflect on what you wrote, Zainab. Zainab says the below map illustrates how to create electricity with water. Zainab, that's a little bit too simple. Okay, so that kind of a sentence, Zainab, would only be a band 5. And also, Zainab, avoid referring to the location of the picture or the diagram. So the below map, it's not really a map. It's a diagram or a blueprint. Maps are usually physical land features with directions like north, south, east, west. So map is a bit awkward, Zainab. Careful with that. And also don't refer to its location on the paper. All right? It's awkward for a reader to read the location of a picture on a paper. It's unnecessary. Okay. Yeah, Roshni, that was probably a good retraction. I don't think that's really the main feature that we notice here. What do we notice? So what is really the most vivid, observable feature or features of this blueprint? Okay, work on that. Again, think of, I don't think it's the storage of water, Roshni. Remember what I told you before, members, that when you're looking at a diagram or a map like this, or even a bar chart or a line graph, you can identify the main feature by seeing which are the largest chunks of visual information. Yeah, okay, so Kesey says, well, the most observable feature is that water flows down to generate electricity. I think that's pretty good, Kesey. I think that's an okay observation. I don't think it's the best, in my humble opinion, but I think it's a good one. So you could go with that. That could do well for you if you say water flows down. Now, of course, Kesey, if you want to take that a step further, you want to then consider the word gravity. So gravity is a key element in generating electricity, right? But I think that's maybe something for the summary or maybe something for the analysis. I think there's a more vivid feature here. Okay? What are the most eye-catching parts of this diagram? Try to think about that. Okay, Roshni says that there's infrastructure that's needed. Roshni, now you're in the right direction. What kind of infrastructure? Okay, so Roshni says that there's a powerhouse here. Yeah, there's a powerhouse or some kind of a station here, right? So this is clearly a big feature here, this chunk. What else? Alexander, the water flowing and rotating this generator here, I think that's a little bit too detailed. I think that's something for the analysis. Kesey, I see you're still on that elevation, that difference here. Okay. If I were at home or if I were at the exam and I saw this diagram, this might help you a little bit. I would look at it like this. I would go, okay, when I look at this at a glance, right? This is a very vivid part of the picture. This is a very vivid part of the picture. And the blue, all this blue here, is a very vivid part of the picture. Okay, so this, and this is what really pops out at me. Okay, that's what really just hits me when I look at this. So that's what I would consider mentioning in the overview. Okay? Now, there's a couple ways that you could do that, but I think that's what's most obvious here, right? Again, always think about if you're explaining this to an alien. So give me a sentence, members. And I don't want to help you more. I want you to really recognize this on your own. So when you think features, think elements, okay? So a feature is an element. This is a feature of this diagram, this power station here. This power dam is a feature of this diagram. This water here is a feature of the diagram. Shanghung Tsai, that what you're writing is your analysis. Okay? So we're not there yet. We need that one more key sentence for the overview to really make our overview a band 7 to 9, not just a band 5 or a band 6. All right? So don't jump there yet, Shanghung. That will be a good sentence for the analysis. Okay? Alexander, yeah, that's okay. I think that again might be something for the summary. Okay? Water is the key to the mechanism of the hydropower dam and electricity generation. So that's what I would summarize, Alexander. Water and gravity, actually, Alexander. But this is simpler. I think you're overthinking it. Okay, I think some of you are thinking too much about this. And you can use, so you don't have to be really tricky. You can use the words even out of the question, like the word feature. Okay. So put it together in a sentence. Don't be shy, members. I'm really hoping to get your sentence before I... So Kesey says, at first glance, water flows down from the dam to the generator. Yeah, Kesey, that's much better. Okay, that is a much, much better sentence. It's very clear for your reader. That works. I wouldn't even necessarily include movement, Kesey, at this point yet. So I might just go with something like, at first glance, the three main components of this diagram are the dam, the generator, and water. Okay? Just that simple. Okay? Don't overthink it. So this would be an ideal overview. The given blueprint depicts the process by which electricity is generated in a hydropower plant. At first glance, the three main components of this diagram are the dam, the generator, and water. Okay? That's very clear for your reader. It's not overly complex, but yet it's still clear and accurate enough to be a band 9. All right? Okay? Amarjeet says it is necessary for a water reservoir to be at a high place near the dam. Roshni says, at first glance, it is clear that the dam is built across broad plains and contains a number of structural features other than the main wall itself. Roshni, I think, again, that's too much detail, okay? So don't overthink it. That's one of the big mistakes that students make, I think, in the IELTS, is they overthink the situations. Simple is beautiful. It's not easy. It takes practice. All right. So now we go to the analysis. Okay. Or analyses for plural. And let's take a look at the diagram again. So now is your time to shine, Shanghung, with your first step. So Shanghung is starting from here, and I think most students recognize that this is where we want to start with the reservoir, and it's the head pond, and there's the intake. So Shanghung Tsai for this step says, first of all, the reservoir stores water, and the water goes through the dam to the powerhouse. All right, I think, Shanghung, that you're moving a little bit quickly. You need to use the words in the diagram, like intake. Members, can you see the words clearly? Is it big enough, the picture? Let's see if I can enlarge it a bit more for you, like that. Okay, so hopefully you can see it now. You should use the words. Okay. All right. So some more first sentences there, students, for this one, if you will, please. And this is a process diagram, so you can absolutely use words like firstly. It's a good idea. Firstly, water is collected in a reservoir behind the dam, and then drained through the intake. Opening down towards the penstock. Okay. Valiant Venture says, first thing first. That is not used in this context, Valiant Venture. We don't use that expression in a process diagram. First thing first, it means of the utmost importance, Valiant Venture. You might say something like, first things first, we need to wash the dishes before we can make dinner, because it's important to have clean pots for cooking. But in this situation, we would not use the expression first things first. Okay? So awkward, you will lose points for that, Valiant Venture. Careful. So firstly, or first of all, but not first things first. So firstly, the water is collected in a reservoir, and then it flows down to the powerhouse, passing through the intake. Opening, sure. Okay, that works. That's pretty good otherwise. Valiant Venture. Good. All right. We'll wait for a couple more seconds to give some other members a chance to put up that first sentence. Meanwhile, for those of you who have done that already, start thinking about your second sentence. So we don't all have to be at the same stage in the diagram. If you've written the first sentence, start writing the second sentence, which should take place somewhere around here. Okay. Hi, Fernando. A little bit late, but that's okay. You can join in. Fernando, we're writing sentences to explain this part of this process. So Shang Hung says, beginning at the first stage, water is stored in a reservoir in the dam, and then because of gravity, the water goes through the intake and flows down towards the penstock. Very nice. So Shang Hung, you're incorporating the concept of gravity, which is good. That is absolutely a key element in this process, so it's good to think about that. Definitely. All right. Again, for some students, I think you're still in part 1 here, around this part. Now we've described it and moved to this part here. Okay, what is happening here? Kesey says, firstly, the dam is used to collect water, storing it in a reservoir, and then the intake opens for the water to flow down to the generator, which is at a lower elevation, which has lower elevation. It's okay. Yeah, Kesey, has is a good. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, while I'm waiting, I'll start working on that second sentence as well, describing this point number 2. Okay. As the water is pulled to a lower elevation, the force of gravity speeds the water to turn the turbine in the power station. Okay. So as the water is pulled to a lower elevation, the force of gravity speeds the water to turn the turbine in the lower part of the power station. Sure, that works. All right. Amarjeet says it is crystal clear that water is reserved by the dam, and then it flows down to the penstock through the intake, Amarjeet. So just a couple of corrections with your prepositions there. I know that's a tricky part of it. Okay, so give me some sentences for number 2 here. I'm giving you one. It's not the only way to express this, so there's definitely different ways to describe or explain step number 2. Again, try to use a range of vocabulary. Don't include opinion, just see or report what you see in the diagram. Okay. So there it is again. Roshni says, notably, the large structure of the dam is built to store water behind it, which is then evacuated through the intake opening down towards the penstock. Roshni, don't forget to use your adjective clauses. Members, using adjective clauses when you are describing a diagram like this is very important, okay? So when you're practicing this at home, definitely make sure that you have words like which moves through, okay, or that passes next or passes by. So using those adjective clauses is an absolutely important grammatical and expressive form of these diagrams to get those high band scores. From the Dominican Republic, Fernando, you're in a very different time zone from us, maybe even in a different day. Fernando, try to give us a helping hand here with these sentences describing how a hydropower dam functions. All right. Don't worry too much about mistakes, so don't be self-conscious, members, about making mistakes with these steps. What's important is that you get it out. Remember, in the real exam, you don't have all day to write down a sentence. So just build your fluency, write down the sentence. If you make mistakes, it's okay. That's why I'm here, is to correct it. So don't try to write a perfect sentence before you put it into the chat, okay? So Alexander says, after the penstock, water is accelerated by gravity, which then revolves the turbine, passing the momentum of rotation to the generator. Yeah, very nice, Alexander. Clearly you have some good understanding of how this works. So very good. So one more time, Alexander, just the order of words. Watch how I correct it a little bit, but excellent information. So after the penstock, comma, accelerated by gravity, comma, water revolves the turbine, which then passes the momentum of rotation to the generator. So Alexander, we can keep the beginning of your sentence like that, but there's a very important second comma after gravity, okay? So just so you have an idea there, because otherwise it's a very well put sentence. So this is Alexander's here. So after the penstock, accelerated by gravity, and this is the comma here, Alexander, that's very important, okay? Because that's an additive clause. So it's an added piece of information. You need to close it off. I'll show you how you can realize that, Alexander. So water revolves So after the penstock, accelerated by gravity, water revolves the turbine, which passes the momentum of rotation to the generator. Okay, so Alexander, that's what it needs to look like. The way, Alexander, that you know you need a comma here and a comma here, and we will do a members class tomorrow on in the members chat class. You can't omit this one, Alexander. It's not a good idea to omit this one. It's because it's an additive piece of information. So after the penstock, water revolves the turbine, which passes the momentum of rotation. Even if we don't have this, Alexander, let me show you why this comma is a must. So even if I don't have this element, okay, so even if I don't have the accelerated by gravity, I need this comma because this is my dependent clause and this is my independent clause. So there's no way to omit this comma. If I had the dependent clause after the independent clause, then perhaps, but in this case, definitely not, because that comma has to be there after the dependent clause. Does that make sense, Alexander? Also, it's referred to in your books as the subordinating clause and the main clause. Okay, so that comma has to stay. All right. You can check it with another teacher, Alexander. I definitely recommend it. But it has to stay. It has to stay. It would be a mistake not to have that because it just doesn't read right. Okay. All right. So let's see. Zainab says, firstly, it is clear that water is gathered in the dam and passes through the intake down to the penstock. Zainab, that's good. That's good movement of information. Zainab, after firstly, definitely have a comma, okay? So firstly is a leading expression. Leading expressions always need a comma when they start a sentence, okay? So Shanghung Sai says, at the second stage in the process, as water is collected at the powerhouse, it makes the turbine function in the power station. Shanghung, we wouldn't say turbine started its function in the power station. It makes the turbine spin in the power station. Okay. All right. So, let's go to step number 3. And if you're a little bit behind and you're on step number 2, that's okay. So again, members, you don't have to be on the same step. So go to step number 3. So here we're spinning the turbine. The turbine, now we go to step number 4 here, which is the generator. Or sorry, step number 3, which is the generator. Okay, so the spinning turbine. Step number 3 is the generator. And step number 3, you may want to combine this here as the water is exiting through this draft tube. Okay? So this is the draft tube. Hint, hint, write a complex sentence to explain this step 3. As the turbine spins, Alexander did a good job of using the word momentum, the momentum of the turbine. charges the generator, right? So that's what, in fact, is used, that momentum, to create the electricity. And of course, in that process, you have water exiting the powerhouse or the power station through the draft tube. But again, I'll leave that up to you, so I don't want to give you the exact words to express that. I want you to think about it. Okay? And use connecting words like next or after that. All right, I'll give you a few seconds. Highly, highly recommend a complex compound sentence here. Okay? Think about words like at the same time, or synonyms for words like at the same time. Be useful. At the same time can be expressed by one word. What is that one word? That could be very useful for you in this case. Okay, Amarjeet, you're on step number 2 here, I'm guessing, which is, moreover, after the penstock, water passing through the turbine rotates. So it's the actual turbine that's being rotated, not the generator, Amarjeet. So moreover, after the penstock, water passes through the turbine, rotating it, and the generator gets electricity or creates electricity from this momentum, okay? From the momentum of the turbine. So the actual generator is not really... It's passed on to the generator, of course, so this is spinning up here too. But it's the turbine that's being spun by the water. The generator is being spun by the turbine. Not that I'm a hydroelectric engineer by any means. But it's pretty close, Amarjeet, pretty close. Okay. So I'll start writing my sentence while I wait for yours. Hopefully you've begun your sentences. All right, so I'll hide that a little bit. Hopefully that was a bit helpful seeing that. Shenghung says, meanwhile, the generator creates electricity in the transformer. The water also flows through the draft tube into the... All right, Shenghung, so you have some good ideas there. definitely you want to work on organizing those a little bit clearer. So I get what you're saying, but an IELTS examiner will say that it's not quite coherent. So it's not quite clear for the reader what is actually happening. Okay, so you want to connect your ideas a bit better, right? Kesey says, as the turbine spins, power is passed to the generator. Yeah, so Kesey here, you want to use passive voice. Okay, let me show you a little bit here. Okay, so this is Kesey. So it's a good idea, Kesey, what you have there, but you want to use passive voice because these are passive actions in the sense that the agent is unknown. I'll show you what I mean, Kesey. So this would be the correct way, okay? So as the turbine spins, it's not starts to spin, Kesey, because it seems like this is a very constant movement. So it's not really a starting point. It's just a continuous rotation here of this turbine. It's a general situation. So as the turbine spins, power is passed to the generator. Okay, so here, Kesey, I'm using the passive voice past, not the active voice pass, because it's unclear that it's the turbine passing power to the generator or it's actually the water, right? I would say as the turbine spins, power is passed to the generator by a metal rod. Okay, if I wanted to name the actual agent of that action of passing the power, it would be a metal rod, Kesey, which is specifically this metal rod here. Okay, so here's your turbine, here is your generator, and here you have this metal rod that's passing the power. So there you would need a passive voice to be on the safe side. All right, it makes more sense that way. Yeah, and then the rest of it, Kesey, is good. Okay, so meanwhile, water goes through the draft tube to the tail race. That's right, the tail race. Yeah. Roshni says, notably, after the momentum of water, Roshni, it's not after, but it's with. So notably, with the momentum of water, electricity is stored in the powerhouse, which transfers it to cities. Simultaneously, water flows through the draft tube, which is stored at the next end. Maybe you didn't see that word tail race there, I'm assuming. I don't know if it's stored here, and you have to be careful, Roshni, with mentioning elements that are not in the diagram. So we don't really have a city here or a town or a factory. So we have to be a little bit cautious to make that kind of inference. Okay. Alexander says, while the generator revolving generates electricity via the induction effect, the spent water flows from the turbine exhaust out through the draft tube. Yeah, Alexander, that's good. Very nice, actually, Alexander. Just careful to avoid repetition. So use the word generator as the noun, but then instead of the verb generates, use produces. It just reads better. So while the generator revolving produces electricity via the induction effect, the spent water flows from the turbine exhaust out through the draft tube, not outside through the draft tube, just out through the draft tube. Okay, so just some slight corrections there, Alexander, for it to read much, much better. Okay, all right. we're moving along nicely, students. So we're already at this stage here. Now, from the generator, we have another step here. This is step number 4, where electricity is transferred here to the transformer, and then these transmission lines move the electricity from the powerhouse out of the hydropower plant. So let's write a sentence that describes that, okay? So finally, and I'll let you think a little bit on it, so I'll write quietly. All right. So there is my final step. While you're thinking about your last sentence, I'm going to read what I have so far just to make sure that it's okay. Overview. The given blueprint depicts the process by which electricity is generated in a hydropower plant. At first glance, the 3 main components of this diagram are the dam, the generator, and water. And instead of generator, I'm going to go with power plant. I think that reads better. Okay, so it's more accurate. So at first glance, the 3 main components of this diagram are the dam, the power plant, and water. Firstly, water is collected in a reservoir behind the dam and then drained through the intake opening down towards the penstock. As the water is pulled to a lower elevation, the force of gravity speeds the water to turn the turbine in the lower part of the power station. Simultaneously, the turbine's momentum is transitioned to the generator, which produces electricity in the process. In the meantime, the water exits the turbine down the draft tube and out the tail race. Finally, the electricity is passed from the generator to a transformer, which converts this power before sending it down the transmission lines for consumption. Okay, so that reads quite well. I'm quite confident that that will get me at least a band 8. Now, to make sure that it's a band 9, I'm going to summarize. So in summary, the 2 natural phenomenon which are needed for hydroelectric power are water and gravity. As well, man-made structures, including a dam and a power station, are required. Okay, so that's my summary. So now that I have that summary as well, I'm confident that I have a band 9 response to this diagram, to this blueprint. Kesey says, finally, the electricity is transferred by transmission lines for consumption. Yeah, that works, Kesey. So you're very, very close to what I just said as well. All right, members, I had to wrap this up because we're running out of time. So again, remember, members, that at home when you're practicing this, you do want to eventually focus on speed. So you want to time these to 20 minutes, okay? No more. All right. I will post this task 1 completed essay up on the community board. I do have to say that a lot of you have some great sentences. So Alexander, some really nice sentences. Kesey, Shanghung, really nice sentences. Roshni, some nice vocabulary. So just make sure that you're practicing to get these sentences and these ideas onto paper quickly. Okay, that's definitely an important part of this process in task 1. Viewers, in 30 minutes, we have a task 2 question that was requested by one of you, and we will go through the planning and introduction of that today. Again, remember to join us at aehelp.com for the academic version of the IELTS, or gieltshelp.com for the general version. Again, for the academic, we have just released our brand new app, Academic IELTS Help, that links your accounts. So make sure to download that, and we will be releasing the general IELTS version in the coming months. So look out for that. Again, those websites, they look like this. This is the general, gieltshelp.com. Click that red button to join there. And this is the academic with the blue background. Click that big red button to join there. Spend a couple dollars, save yourself a lot of time and headache by practicing the right strategies with the right examples so that you get those strong, high IELTS band scores. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully I will see most of you in 30 minutes for task 2. Bye for now.